Ms. Ling had explained this issue in her question. And the second point is that the AB reserved the panel's finding that soju and whiskey, brandy, rum, gin, and Geneva and liquors were not similarly taxed in order to protect domestic product. And Lynn has also explained it in their second question. So if you want to read the full version of the AB report, you can look it up online. So now we come to the last slide. Okay, so I would refer to the Vietnamese law, and in our legislation system, there also like provisions that regulates our light product. So as you can see on the screen right now, we don't use the term light product, but we have similar goods. So what does it mean? So it means that Vietnam, as a member of the WTO, also has been in accordance with the national treatment principle, like all the products that are imported into Vietnam are equally taxed as their domestic products. Sorry, can you go back to the previous slide?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so sorry, because time doesn't allow, so I will say it in briefly. Like as I mentioned before, as Vietnam is a member of the WTO, so there is no provisions that regulate that domestic and imported products are differently taxed. Otherwise, Vietnam will be against the general principle of WTO. And so for products that can be light product or directly competitive, the tax regime must be like carefully considered in order to avoid the scope of GATT. Okay, so before I end my presentation, I have an open-ended question for you guys to discuss with each other. Okay, so in Vietnam, medicinal alcohol is taxed at a higher rate than drinking alcohol. So does this violate the national treatment principle? Why? Can you tell me your opinion? Anyone?
Me personally think that it doesn't violate the regulation because of the end use of the product you mentioned earlier. Medical alcohol is used in medication or in some specific places such as hospital or clinic. While drinking alcohol, we could find it in convenience stores, bar, pub, and that's the difference of those two kind of products.
Yes, excellent. That I would like to say. Okay, so in my opinion, and also Nga's opinion, because these alcohol, they serve different purposes. Medicinal alcohol is used for medical purposes. Why drinking alcohol is used to drink, so they are not like light products. So this doesn't violate the national treatment principle. Okay, and thank you for your attention. If you have any concerns, we are happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, the groups. And is there any questions arising among the class member? We would love to hear. There might be not. All right, because we don't have much time, so so I may give some comments and also some questions, and so in the meantime, other class member may have more time to think about what thing they need to know more. They need to learn more about the case. Well, let's say this Japanese alcoholic beverage is a very famous case in the system of the WTO, and for specifically this case, the explanations, the interpretations of like products has been very clearly analyzed, both at the panel review and also as AB review. And so that is the reason why I chose for the class to have to discuss about the situations and also relating issues under the system, and also in this case you can also find many like classical interpretation explanations of the AB and especially of the AB, especially this body, which will be and continue to be quoted in the following cases relating to like product in the system of the WTO. Well, I have to say that the document prepared by the groups is very like well organized, and so both the report and the presentation is also very good, especially the communications with the audiences, and also relating to the manner that the group solve the questions. Well, it shows that the groups have a good understanding regarding the questions. Although there's still some issues that I need to clarify, but it seems that it is a very sufficient document to submit to the class. But here I cannot see any references in this research, and so it can be considered as a kind of a very mini research relating to the fields, and so no references. That mean the preparations of this document has not referred to any further research that may have better understanding for the research. So that's my maybe the minus point, but for the things you have prepared right here, it's quite sufficient for every classes under my views. And so right here I have some questions to the groups. There's some things that need to be clarified right here. Now let me share the screen. All right, now, so you can see on the screen, and another, both the groups and the class member can follow the report that has been supplied by the groups. And as you also have the mentions in their presentations that under the case, after analyzing the case, they suppose that and follow with the panel examinations, they come to the conclusion that both shochu and vodka share many similarities in physical properties because they were usually drunk in diluted forms, right? So this is the statement that has been mentioned by the groups. And here's the questions I would like to ask. Now, so under this statement, then is it true that like physical properties gonna link with the manners that the consumer gonna use of the products? Do you got the point? Now here in the sentence, you state that the two products had share some similarities in physical properties because what? Because they were usually drunk like in diluted forms. That means normally they're gonna add like ice with the wine to drink it rather than directly drink at the original form of the liquors. Now, so in the case, may I understand that physical properties is like in connections with the factors of the manners or how they're gonna drink these kinds of alcohol. Now I need the answer from the groups.
Sorry, teacher, could we have a couple of minutes to discuss with each other and answer it later?
Sure. Maybe just only 3 or 4 minutes because we don't have much time.
Yeah.
Okay, any sufficient answer at this point?
So in this part, my group have answered that the panel code have the express about the content of live products that they are not need to fulfill all of these characteristics because it had to specific so but in this case the vodka and the soju is drunk in the diluted form. That means they have the diluted form for drink, and you can easily understand that the end use of byproduct is drunk in diluted form too. I think that.
All right, now let me come to the evaluations. Now, my questions is not that how it's going to be explained in the case. What I'm asking the groups is, now when you connect here physical properties with the factors that those such kinds of alcohol has been usually drunk in diluted forms, that means they are equal. That means the terms physical properties as equal with usually drunk in diluted form, but those are different things. Now, when we talk about physical properties, that mean how does it look and like its own be presented in a kind of very clear and white or without color liquid, for example, and etc. But when we talk about how a kind of alcohol has been drunk, that's mean the way or how the consumer use the such kind of alcohol, or to drink it directly or add it with ice or etc. So these are different features when the panel jump into the examinations of like product. Now here in the case, as you can see in the report, that the group has also mentioned the factors that appear in the case that in Japan, normally Japanese people drink alcohol, especially vodka, with ice, and that is that's kind of habit make the alcohol percentage in the vodka lower. As you can see right here for soju, it normally has been produced at 25 degrees, while for vodka it's usually be prepared at about 30 to 45 degrees. And so if we add for the less amount of vodka, and then we add further and more ice to the cup, and so it's gonna make the alcoholic percentage lower, and just only in this case, and because of such kind of habit, then it's make these kinds of differences in the alcoholic degrees was not considered as a major difference between the two, because in other market or in other contexts, if you may, when you compare two types of alcohol, then the alcoholic content might be the things that you have to put on the list. So such kinds of alcohol is different in alcoholic percentage, and so there might be some difference among them, between them, right? For us, the group has also mentioned the last questions that has been raised to the class member. It's also very like sufficient for us to raise the questions that all right, so So there's differences in the end use of the product, and so they might be different. And so for me or for other people, or even for Japan, they also, and they have the good reason, right? They have the good reason to consider such kinds of alcohols are different, because they have been prepared in different alcoholic content. And so in this case, and as I have also raised the questions to the groups, that do you think that this list of factors are like enough for the case, or should we prepare, or should we analyze further factors? And because I find no answer in this report, so I also put my comments right here. Then you didn't answer the questions that what do you think about this factor that has been used and mentioned by the parties and also by the panel? Is the case is this list exhaustive or not? And provide your comments relating to this. Now here's also further things that I need to clarify. All right, right here on the screen. I need you to read this paragraph. Now here on the subparagraph 2, the group had stated that soju, whiskey, brandy, rum, etc. were directly competitive or substitutable products. And so my question is, as you have mentioned earlier in Article 3, and especially Article 3, Paragraph 2, that the examinations will be raised amongst like products. So why they are directly competitive or substitutable products in this context? That means does Article 3, Paragraph 2 extend its scope to not only like products, but also directly competitive or substitutable products? That's the question. Now I need the answer from the group shortly, and then we can have time to move further for the next groups. Do you get the questions?
I think you can look at the Article 3, Section 2, in the second sentence. They have mentioned that the violations of anti-principle are not when you have a higher or the higher tax on the imported products. They have they also include the case that you apply the other manner to express the discrimination about the import and the domestic products. So in this case, the soju and whiskey, brandy, rum are the directly competitive products, and they can replace each other. So the act of taxing a higher tax based on the alcohol content is considered as another manner to protect the imported, to protect the domestic product. In this case, it's soju, because if whiskey, brandy have a higher tax, the customer will willing to buy soju instead, right?
Well, thank you for your answers, but it's not have the good focus on my questions. My questions is now, if you have quoted Article 3, Paragraph 2, right? And when you focus on even so in this, you can see on the screen, and paragraph 2 of GATT Article 3 that has been quoted by the group. Now, when you try to figure out the objective of these regulations, now in the first sentence of this paragraph, then you can see that they have mentioned like domestic products. That means the objective of these regulations is focused on like products, right, between and amongst imported and domestic products. But for the second sentence right here, now they didn't say, or they didn't mention any such kinds of like products or directly competitive products. And so under a kind of regulation, we cannot think, or we cannot like interpret it as we expected, right? And if the law right here require or has been designed to apply among directly competitive or substitutable products, then we can count them in the examinations. But not right here. They only applied between and among like products. Then there's no place for directly competitive or substitutable products. So the questions right here is why such kind of classification should be put in here in this context of GATT Article 2, paragraph 2. So that's the question. But yeah, as I noticed that this case is, yeah, which is similar with other cases in the WTO system relating to the law and the policy of the WTO member, that is never be simple or never be easy to understand. And so for a very short time, you cannot get on the point that has been mentioned. But if you read the report carefully, then they did explain why such kinds of classification is necessary to be put in here, because under the context of GATT Article 3, paragraph 2. Now, the first sentence of paragraph 2 has been designed to focus on like products, but the second sentence have a broader scope that they're going to be applied among directly competitive or substitutable products. And this kind of regulation has been mentioned in the 8th Article 3 of the GATT 1994. We may have a further chance for the discussions maybe next week, hopefully. So right here, there's a lot of things that need to be clarified, and the things that has been mentioned in this report is not fully prepared under the situations of the case. And so I need to remind you all that the things that has been mentioned here can be used just for to get the very general idea, but not to explain or for the full understanding regarding GATT Article 3, and we will save this for our next seminar that will be held next week. Is there any questions come from the group? Because if there's something that it is not, it is unclear right here in this context, then we can take this chance to talk about that. Otherwise, we will move on to the next group. Okay, if there's no questions raising from the groups or from the class member, then I think group number 2 can provide your presentation right now.
Okay, teacher. Hello, everyone. My group is 7. We represent the case 2 about the career measures affecting imports of fresh, chilled, and frozen beef. This is my member groups include Thảo, Hỷ Long, Hồng Ngọc, and Uyển Nhi. Today, my presentation is divided into 2 parts. The first one is introduction. We will provide some simple background of the case and main argument of each party to have the overview for you to easily to catch up with our presentation. And the part 2 is about some questions that teacher give to us. Discuss following issue. The first one is whether Korea's dual retail system accord less favorable treatment to imported beef than to like domestic beef. And the second one is about why the actions of Korea is not considered justifiable under Article 20 JTT. And the last one is summarize the panel of relating to the discrimination. So the first one, I will give you the summaries of the case. The case is happened between the complainant is Australia and United States, and respondent is Korea. Why Australia and United States filed the lawsuit to the beef of Korea? Korea is supposed to maintain the stabilization of their certain agriculture subsector in domestic beef. Therefore, they promulgate 2 statutes which are act on distribution and price stabilization of agriculture and fishery product. And the second one is Livestock Act. Korean measure relate to the domestic support provided to the beef industry and Korean agriculture sectors. And the second one is imported and local beef product follow different retail distributions channels. So government authorized Korean's Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, hereby called the MAF, to regulate the quantity, timing, price, and sales of imported beef. These regulations are called the management guideline for imported beef. Perhaps if the Korea is just a tiny beef market, or its stabilization attempt will not be perceived as having serious repercussions by Korea imported partner of Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or United States. But in this case, Korea is the 3rd largest beef importer with 153,000 tons imported in 1999. However, their management guideline had an effect on 19% of Korea's 50,000 retail beef outlets. So now we move to the main argument of each party. The first party is complainant party, include Australia and United States. With the opinion of Australia, Korean imposed the requirements on the retail sale of imported beef, restrict sales of beef imported by the livestock producer marketing organization is called LPMO, and also the distribution into the market, including cost payment and record-keeping requirements, which operated at the quantitative restriction and discriminations against imported products, contrary to Article 2.1 and 3.4, 11.1 and 17. Simultaneous buy and sell SBS system imposed labeling on imported beef, but did not do the same thing with domestic beef, which is inconsistent with Korea's obligations under Article 2 and 3. In 1997, Korea provided domestic support to its beef industry, which exceeded the reduction commitments of its current total aggregate measurements of products, AMS, for that year, contrary to Article 3, 6, and 7 of the Agreement on Agriculture. Now we move to the argument of United States. The first thing is United States complained that the requirement to sell imported beef only in specialized store prevented the retailers, customer, and end user approach the imported products is again Article 3.4. According to GATT 1994, Koreans' discretionary import regimes is inconsistent with its obligations under Article 9.1 of GATT, Article 4.2 of Agreement on Agriculture, and Article 1 and 3 of the Agreement on Import Licensing Procedure. Korea had failed to meet reductions commitment for supporting domestic agricultural products at the level of domestic support supply, which is in violation of Korea's duty under Article 3, 6, and 7 of the Agricultural Agreement. So now is the main argument of the third party include Canada and New Zealand. According to Canada, Korea relabeled the imported beef. It means they label their imported beef, but when Korean imported, they erase the old label and they relabel the new one, resulting in additional cost of this product. Canada argued that all measures constitute a violation of Korea's obligation under Article 3.4 of GATT 1994. Moreover, prongs doing such as the restriction to access to imported beef, delays in invitations for foreign suppliers, and other issues violated Article 9.1 of GATT 1994 and Article 4.2 for the Agreement of Agriculture, AOA. And with the argument of the New Zealand, they said that the restriction on sales and distribution to the market of imported beef from Korea violate Article 3.4 of GATT 1994. The LPMO tendering process for beef imports result in treatment that is less favorable than that provided for the Korean schedule of concession. In violation, the Article 3.4 of in violation of Article 2.1a, Article 3.4, and Article 17.1a of GATT 1994 about the non-discriminatory treatment requirement. This is our presentation about the overview of this lower case. Now we move to the part 2, discuss the issue. Question 1 is about whether Korea's dual retail system requiring imported beef to be sold in separate store according less favorable treatment to imported beef than to like domestic beef. This presentation is of Hồng Ngọc.
Okay, I will explain you guys for the reasons why the action of correct is not considered justifiable in the Article 20 of GATT. Okay, to answer this question, first thing first, we should have the most basic understanding of Article 20. As we all know, GATT was created to eliminate discrimination or coercive practices in international trade. However, GATT 1994 also provides for some exceptions. Specifically, the general exception provided for Article 20 that allows WTO members to take measures that violate the provisions of GATT 1994, but are not considered illegal. Article 20 consists of two parts, the trouble and the specific cases, which we can understand as the reasons why the members need to take measures that are against to Article 3 of GATT 1994. So we should know that to benefit from Article 20 exceptions, a member must demonstrate that its measures come under one or another of a particular exception which are listed under Article 20, and its measures were applied in accordance with the requirements of the schedule of Article 20. In particular, in the S161 case, Korea reckons that its dual retail system is fully justified under paragraph D of Article 20. Therefore, Korea is responsible for demonstrating that its dual retail system satisfies two requirements. Number one is its system were necessary to secure compliance with laws or regulations, and number two is that its system was applied in accordance with the requirements of introductory clause of Article 20. To prove that the measure is necessary, we need to fully comprehend what necessary means in the context of paragraph D of Article 20. I think this will be a bit difficult to understand, so I hope you guys pay attention extremely. And I also believe that it's better to explain in Vietnamese or than in English. Cho nên là mình sẽ giải thích phần này bằng tiếng Việt nha. Thì theo như mình tìm hiểu được thì necessary ở trong paragraph D của điều 20 á, thì nó sẽ người ta sẽ thường có ba cái tính từ chính để gọi là mô tả cái mức độ cần thiết. Thì mình sẽ có ba từ là indispensable là tất yếu, hoặc là of absolute necessity có nghĩa là không thể cần thiết tuyệt đối, và inevitable là không thể tránh khỏi. Thì theo quan điểm của panel á, là necessary trong cái ngữ cảnh của khoản đi điều 20 thì thực tế lại không bị giới hạn ở trong ba cái tính từ trên, ba cái term trên, mà chắc chắn là nếu mà cái mức độ cần thiết của cái measure của một cái quốc gia thành viên nào đó mà thực hiện á, mà nó rơi vào định nghĩa của ba cái term này á, thì chắc chắn là nó sẽ thỏa mãn được cái yêu cầu số 2 là when necessary to secure compliance with laws or regulations rồi. Nhưng mà tuy nhiên á, là trên thực tế á, có một số biện pháp mà quốc gia thành viên thực hiện thì nó lại không đến mức là tất yếu hoặc là tuyệt đối cần thiết hoặc là không thể tránh khỏi, nhưng mà nó vẫn có thể được xem là cần thiết theo như ngữ cảnh của khoản D điều 20. Thì ban hội thẩm là panel mới giải thích là cái chữ necessary ở trong khoản D này á, nó mở ra cho những cái người cho những cái nước thành viên á, rất là nhiều cái mức độ của sự cần thiết. Thì trong đó có một cái mức độ gọi là making a contribution to, có nghĩa là đóng góp vào thôi. Nhưng mà cái sự đóng góp này á, nó phải ở cái mức gần với lại cái indispensable, có nghĩa là cái mức cao nhất của sự cần thiết, là một điều tất yếu. Thì nói chung là cái phần này nó cũng sẽ hơi khó hiểu, tại vì mặc dù người ta giải thích như vậy nhưng mà nó sẽ còn cái việc đánh giá là một cái biện pháp nó có thực sự necessary không á, thì nó lại phụ thuộc vào cái quan điểm của panel rất là nhiều, dựa trên cái quá trình mà xem xét, đánh giá và điều tra của panel. So, according to Cora argument, the adoption of a dual retail system is necessary to secure compliance with laws or regulations that are not inconsistent with the provision of the agreement. However, based on the panel's investigation at places where fraudulent misrepresentation or passing of one product for another has occurred, the dual retail system is not applied. Instead, Korea used traditional measures which are consistent with WTO rules, including inspections, investigations, and prosecutions. This is clear evidence that Korea could completely eliminate the elements of unfair competition that are against the unfair competition act by other means. From the above analysis, Korea's dual retail system was unable to satisfy the requirements that is necessary to secure compliance with such laws or regulations. Therefore, we also disregard the requirement that the measure must be applied in accordance with the requirements of the chapeau, which is the even-handedness underlying the application of national legislations as the appellate body has held of Article 20. Có nghĩa là mặc dù là ở phía trên mình có giải thích là khi mà một quốc gia muốn biện hộ cái hành vi cái biện pháp của mình á, là ở trong trường hợp này là hệ thống bán lẻ kép của Hàn Quốc là thuộc vào trường hợp ngoại lệ của khoản đi điều 20, tức là cần thiết để đảm bảo việc thực thi pháp luật, việc tuân thủ pháp luật. Cụ thể là bộ luật chống cạnh tranh không lành mạnh trong thương mại, thì Hàn Quốc phải chứng minh được là cái biện pháp đó của mình nó thỏa mãn hai yếu tố. Thứ nhất là nó thực sự cần thiết để đảm bảo việc tuân thủ pháp luật. Cái thứ hai là nó phải được thực hiện đúng với lại cái yêu cầu của phần mở đầu, phần chú thích của điều 20. Nhưng mà thực tế là theo như quá trình điều tra của panel thì cái biện pháp này của Hàn Quốc nó không thỏa mãn được cái yếu tố là nó thực sự cần thiết. Tại vì đối với lại những cái, mặc dù Hàn Quốc nó lập luận là cái hệ thống bán lẻ này được tạo ra là để ngăn chặn những cái hành vi trái pháp luật theo như là quy định trong đạo luật chống cạnh tranh không lành mạnh, nhưng mà thực tế là ở một số nơi, một số cửa hàng mà nó diễn ra những cái hành vi đó thì panel lại thấy là Hàn Quốc không sử dụng cái hệ thống bán lẻ kép của mình, mà lại sử dụng những cái cách thức mà truyền thống mà phù hợp với lại WTO, giống như là điều tra hay là phạt cái kiểu gì đó. Cho nên là vì nó đã không thỏa mãn được cái yếu tố, cái yêu cầu là necessary rồi, cho nên là panel cũng cũng ignore luôn cái requirement thứ hai là phải được thực hiện đúng với lại cái yêu cầu của đoạn mở đầu của điều 20. That's all. Now we move to the question number 3. So, Nguyễn Nhi.
Okay, now I will carry out the final part in my group presentations. It's about summarize the panel report regarding the discrimination by Korea. I will divide my presentation into 3 main parts. The first one is The measures with respect to retail sales of imported beef shall be discussed. Australia submits that the imported beef is so separately from domestic beef. Besides, Australia was of the view that the display and segregation requirement of beef stores to distinguish between domestic and imported beef was discriminatory. By adapting measures such as selling separate domestic and imported beef in the same store would lead to the misunderstanding of quality between like products. Such discriminatory aspects have altered their perceptions of consumer. For example, Hanwoo beef from Korea. Koreans perceive that domestic beef is superior to imported beef without objectively accessing to quality. Therefore, exporting countries are forced to lower the price of their products to make up the differences in quality. Besides, the reports show that there are the stores that only import and sold domestic beef, and they did not sell imported beef, resulting to elimination of imported beef by thousands of meat stores in Korea. In addition, the trading process of imported beef in Korea was not in accordance with the provisions of Article 3.4 of GATT 1994. The U.S. held that Korean domestic beef did not meet restrictions regarding distribution of sales. Korean only imposed the restrictions on beef export. Domestic beef could be sold freely without being bound by regulations on restriction by distributor. However, according to Korea, the decisions to sell domestic beef or imported beef depend on the seller themselves. Korea counters that the number of stores selling domestic beef more than stores selling imported beef was not discriminatory. Its imported beef could be sold at any store in Korea, and there was no restriction on the distribution of imported beef. Thus, the decisions to choose whether to sell domestic beef or imported beef depend on the supplier and the shop owner. Second is about the measures imposed on retail sale of imported beef is a controversial issue. Australia told that Korea has restricted the sale of imported beef at the beef store. According to Australia, Korea has only applied the sale of imported beef in 5,000 stores, which had a tiny number compared to 48,000 stores. It could lead to an impact on the trade of imported beef. However, Korea believed that the separation of the separate selling system was to prevent the exchange of imported beef with domestic beef because it was difficult to identify. Moreover, Korea said as there was no restriction on the number of the shops selling imported beef. Korea admit that the number of shops selling domestic was more than imported beef, but because the supply of imported beef was less and not enough to develop imported beef store. Third and the final part is about the LPMO distinctions between grass-fed beef and grain-fed beef was contrary to Article 2.1 GATT 1994. A specific price discrimination between grass-fed beef and grain-fed beef violates this provision. Australia has accused Korean of adopting the LMPO holding 3 tenors of import beef, but in those 3 tenors of amount of grass-fed beef fell by 50%. Australia alert that there has been a decrease in the amount of grass-fed beef imported, and this distinction does not occur with Korea classic beef and grain-fed beef. However, Korea claimed that they did not see any discrimination happening. Besides, Australia considered that imported beef and domestic beef are both live products. So domestic beef did not distinguish between grass-fed beef or grain-fed beef, but the LMPO make distinction to imported beef. Korea has an indicator to judge the quality, but in which Korea did not distinguish between grass-fed beef or grain-fed beef, but generally specific in a column. Therefore, Australia asked Korea to have the same regulation on imported beef and remove the restriction on the import of grass-fed beef. And that's all for our group presentation. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you the groups for your highly detailed presentations. Now, is there any questions has been raised to the groups, the class member? No? All right. So now may I provide some comments to this work, and then we'll come up with some questions for further explanations. Now, for me, this is also a very well prepared and well organized document and presentations. Now, the decision to mention the appellate body review into this report without request is, for me, insufficient decision of the groups, because although in this assignment I have not mentioned for the groups to prepare the explanation or interpretation or the review coming from the AB, but in general, under the system of the WTO, AB's report is, and only it has met the quality to be considered as precedent under the dispute settlement system of the WTO, but not the panel report. So when a case which has been examining under two levels, both at the panel review and at appellate review, because the AB can support, or they can also change or reverse the panel's evaluations. And so the AB report will be the final judgment, and it's always need to be mentioned as this is the law, but not the panel report. And so for the coming presentations, I also need all of you to keep in your mind that normally when the case has been has passed by the two step of review, it's need to be, and you have to like read the AB document, the AP report together with the panel report, because these things that has findings or the evaluation that has been used or applied by the panel can be changed or reversed at the higher level, and at this level, then it's going to be the final judgment. You got me? And also because you have the idea that the dispute settlement system of the WTO has been designed at two levels, and for the panel members, normally they are not always the people who let's say professionally a judge, right? They normally can act as a kind of politicians, and they may they may better knows about the law of the WTO, but they are like they cannot make or create the law under the system. So only the AB review and the things that has been interpreted and explained by the AB may have chance to be considered as the law in the system of the WTO, but not the panel report. Is that all clear right here? And so that is the reason why you need to have a very a closer look into the AP report rather than the panel report. Okay, but why right here I have mentioned and require on the groups to focus on the panel, because there's a rising problem that has been appear in such kinds of interpretations coming from the panel, and because of this weakness, then it is and it's a proof that the system needs to build and to design a higher level of judge of court under the system. And that is the reason why, and this is also considered as a very kinds of innovations in the WTO court, if we can say so. Okay, and because I have heard that the group's member, one of the group's member has mentioned, and I hope that this is a kind of misunderstanding. Or just a kind of mistake in the presentation, is that now in this case, the disputing issue has relating to the dual recourse retail system of that's applied by Korea, but you can see right here the discrimination, if there was, is going to be raised between and amongst imported beef and domestic beef. And so it's not a kind of discrimination has been raised among imported beef only. So that is focused on the national treatment obligations, but not on the most favored treatment. Okay, and so there should be such kinds of reminding in order for you to focus on the point. Now, right here in this case, we talk about the national treatment, but because it's also relating to like products, and we also have a chance to discuss about national treatment next week, and so it's also noteworthy to discuss about it and to give you a chance to have a closer look into the practice of the WTO. Now, these are just some comments relating to the report at the very general point of view. Now I have only 2 questions to the groups. Let me share the screen so that you can be easily to follow. Okay. Now here's the case. Now we're talking about GATT Article 3, Paragraph 4, right? And here that we talk, and the class member may heard the group member mentions it many times, the phrase that the member shall be accorded treatment no less favorable than that accorded to live products of national origin in respect of own law, regulation, etc. Right? And so here, the law has raised the term no less favorable. Now, here's the questions for the group's member. Based on your understanding on the examination of the panel and also the AP in the case, if you have chance to have a look at the AP report. Now let's think about this scenario. Now what do you think? Is it true that in case a measure that provides treatment to imported products that is different from that accorded to product in the domestic market, is creating a kind of violation of Article 3, Paragraph 4 of GATT 1994. Do you get the point?
Sorry, teacher, can you repeat the questions?
All right. Now, we all have the idea that under Article 3, Paragraph 4 of GATT, that the WTO member shall be accorded treatment no less favorable, right, than that accorded to like products of domestic products. Okay. So this is the rules that has been mentioned in GATT Article 3, Paragraph 4, and the terms no less favorable has appeared in this context, right? And that is the main, the main obligations of the WTO member to apply a no less favorable treatment to the imported products in comparing with domestic products. Is that all clear right here?
Yes, I got the point.
Okay, and then so let's think. I'm now design a situations like I have designed regulations in the domestic system that might treat imported products at a different manner, in a different way, in compare with domestic product. Now, is it a kind of such kinds of regulations can be considered inconsistent with Article 3, Paragraph 4?
So you mean that there are different treatments amongst domestic products, right?
No, there's different treatment between imported products and domestic products. And is it a kind of violation of Article 3, Paragraph 4?
I don't think so, because they need to be treated differently with the imported products and the domestic product in order to protect the domestic products from unfair competitive acts. As I mean, they can treat differently, but the treatment is not so strictly that it violates the Article 3.4 of GATT. I think that because there are so many different ways to protect the domestic products among the imported one, if the country wants to protect their own enterprises. Yeah.
Okay, so may I clarify your answers right here? That so you think that we have right to apply such kind of different in the treatment between imported products and domestic products?
Yes, we can do that in order to protect their domestic products.
Oh, okay. Thank you for your answer. Well, it's quite it's a correct answer. Like, but it will not be sufficient to talk or to straightly show our intentions to support or to protect the domestic product. We don't need to say so, huh? But under the wording of that Article 3, Paragraph 4, then you may realize right here that now what the provision here is not the differences we can apply. Okay, but what it care about is the effect or the impact that may bring by such kind of measures, right? And so even if it's different, there's no problem. But the system or the WTO national treatment obligations, what they care about, what they try to focus on is that there's such kinds of provision, such kind of measures create a kind of favorable to the domestic products, and that's on the requirement has been raised. by the regulation. And all right, just very small questions right here. All right, now so you can see on the screen right now. I jump to the relevant quote of the group right here. Now, as you can see, the sentence that I have highlighted on the screen. Now here, the group has quote the panel argument, the panel finding that there are alternative measures such as investigations, etc., which Korea may use to implement to secure other products from unfair competitions, and so it doesn't need for Korea to apply such kinds of dual retail system, and so they think that the dual retail system was not necessary in the case or in the evaluations under Article 20, paragraph D of GATT 1994. Okay, so we are here, right here at this finding. Now here's also the questions to the groups. Now, in such case, because you have read the panel report, and so you have the idea that the panel believes that there's others alternative measures that that Korea may apply rather than using such kind of dual retail system. Okay. And so, in such case, what do you think about these kinds of evaluations of the panel? Now, the panel think that there's better way or better or other measures for Korea to apply. But now let's think about this in a different view. Now, if the panel thinks so, is it true that the WTO law right now require the member much more than what has been asked under GATT Article 3? Because now, as we have read through the text of GATT Article 3, and we have the idea that Article 3 does not require such kinds of obligations. Now, Korea have themselves right to define or to choose any measures that most contribute to their target. And so the panel has no right to request the member to apply a specific measure, right? Now, we or the country have their sovereignty, right? And they have their own reasons and right to choose specific measures and not a kind of suggestion from the. So what do you think about these questions? Do you get the point right here?
Yes, I got it. Okay, let me answer the question. In my opinion, I don't think so. Like, the panels agrees that Korea used alternative measures such as investigation, prosecutions, fights, and record keeping in places where kind of acts of which are against the unfair competition laws. I mean that thôi để em trả lời câu này bằng tiếng Việt thôi, tại vì cái phần này với tụi em nó hơi khó, tại vì em chỉ tìm hiểu thôi. Thì ý là theo quan điểm của nhóm em thì những cái biện pháp mà truyền thống mà nó phù hợp với WTO á thì nó đã có sẵn, cho nên là nó sẽ các thành viên nên sử dụng những cái biện pháp đó để đảm bảo và tránh khỏi những cái loại bỏ những cái hành vi mà nó trái pháp luật, mà trong cái trường hợp đó thì có sự hiện diện của những cái quốc gia khác. Thì trong tình huống này là thị trường thịt bò nội địa và nhập khẩu, thì không phải là panel không cho Hàn Quốc và các quy hành viên khác sử dụng một cái biện pháp cụ thể nào đó, giống như là dual retail system trong cái case này, mà làm tại vì theo lập luận Hàn Quốc thì cái dual retail system này nó được sử dụng để đảm bảo việc thực thi pháp luật, tức là nó đảm bảo được cái tính tuân thủ pháp luật và hạn chế được những cái hành vi mà trái pháp luật, đặc biệt là trái với lại đạo luật chống cạnh tranh không lành mạnh của Hàn Quốc. Cho nên là Hàn Quốc phải chứng minh được rằng là nó thực sự cần thiết. Nhưng mà trong tình huống này thì ở những cái nơi mà có những cái hành vi đó xảy ra và đặc biệt là phổ biến ở Hàn Quốc, thì Hàn Quốc lại không sử dụng cái measure đó của mình, mà lại sử dụng những cái biện pháp thay thế khác mà có sẵn phù hợp với WTO. Cho nên theo lập luận của panel thì tụi em cũng đồng ý là cái dual system, retail system này của Hàn Quốc thì nó không thực sự cần thiết. Tại vì nếu mà nó cần thiết thì nó đã được sử dụng ở những cái nơi mà đặc biệt là có hay gặp những cái hành vi mà là làm trái với đạo luật chống cạnh tranh không lành mạnh của Hàn Quốc rồi. Đó là quan điểm của nhóm em.
Cơ bản thì mình thấy là các bạn hiểu đúng về cái case và các bạn hiểu đúng về cái situations. Thực ra thì cái tranh cãi về cái tính necessary này nó được cãi nhau rất là nhiều trong cái hệ thống của WTO. Thế nào là cần thiết? Rất là khó để có thể cân đo đong đếm nó, và thực sự là nó đặt lên vai cái cơ chế giải quyết tranh chấp rất nhiều cái gánh nặng. Thì và nếu bạn thấy là ở trong cái phân tích của the panel ấy, thì bạn thấy là nói chung là vất vả lắm để analyze từng cái tình huống và từng cái vấn đề được raise lên. Và nhất là mà mình luôn luôn phải nhấn mạnh cái ý là panel họ chỉ là dân không chuyên thôi, đúng không? Họ chỉ là dân amateur trong cái việc giải quyết tranh chấp thôi. Cho nên là để làm những công việc này thực sự rất là khó khăn. Nhưng đấy là cách mà WTO cố tình design, họ không muốn cho một cái cơ quan giải quyết tranh chấp, một cái body chuyên nghiệp để làm việc cái bước này. Thì nó có lý do cho việc đó. Bạn thử suy nghĩ xem là tại sao ha. Thế còn ấy, tất nhiên là hệ thống nó vẫn bảo đảm cái tính đúng đắn của các cái quy định của mình bằng cách là cho phép một cái cơ quan cấp cao hơn để rà soát. Tại sao mình phải raise cái question như vậy, và mình luôn luôn nhắc các bạn là nhớ là panel họ không phải thực sự là công quan tòa đâu. Cho nên là trong cái đánh giá của họ rất nhiều khi gặp sai lầm, và đấy là lý do mà ở trong cái bước phúc thẩm là cái bước cực kỳ cần thiết, và tụi em phải dựa trên cái kết luận của cơ quan phúc thẩm thì nó mới có giá trị. Và đấy là lý do vì sao mà mình đánh giá cao cái nhóm này trong việc là các bạn cố gắng đọc thêm cái AB report. Thực ra một cách nhanh nhất để làm chính là bọn em nhảy luôn vào cái AB report. Tại vì AB thì nó sẽ giải quyết các cái vấn đề còn để lại, và nó sẽ confirm các cái gì mà nó đồng ý, cái cơ quan này đồng ý. Thế cho nên cái cách nhanh nhất để các bạn xử lý một cái case là nhảy luôn vào cái AB report nếu mà nó có cái bước này. Và mặc dù cái case nó khá là phức tạp, nhưng mà mình nghĩ là nhóm thì nhóm có một tức là cái sự hiểu biết liên quan đến cái vấn đề trong cái case khá là phù hợp. So với cái nhóm trước thì nhóm này mình thấy là tụi em hiểu đúng cái vấn đề hơn. Mặc dù là cái mức độ phức tạp của hai cái case thì cũng tương đương nhau á, chứ không có cái nào là khó hơn cái nào đâu. Thế nhưng mà trong cái bài trình bày của nhóm trước thì nó có một vài cái vấn đề, và những cái điểm giống như những cái điểm rất là nổi bật của cái báo cáo giải quyết những cái điểm mà họ nêu ra được, thì rất là tiếc là tụi em lại bỏ qua mất. Tuy nhiên cũng không sao cả. Vào cái buổi trong tuần sau khi mà mình hướng dẫn tụi em về NT thì mình sẽ nói lại cái case này một chút, và mình sẽ nói lại về những cái điểm sáng mà cái báo cáo giải quyết tranh chấp ở trong cái vụ này họ làm được. Thực ra thì về đánh giá chung cái phần chuẩn bị cái bài presentation này của lớp thì nó tốt hơn là mình mong đợi, phải nói là như vậy. Tức là mình không có hình dung là tụi em có thể giải quyết được cái vấn đề đến mức này. Bởi vì khi mà mình ra cái bài tập thì mình rất là lo lắng, mình thậm chí là có ý nghĩ là mình design nó ở cái mức độ rất là sơ khởi, tức là rất là basic cho lớp mình, tại vì lớp mình không có cái background của môn luật thương mại quốc tế. Tuy nhiên thì mình cũng không rõ là cái gì khiến cho mình quyết định là mình vẫn giữ nguyên cái yêu cầu này đối với lớp tụi em, nghĩa là nó cũng tương đương với các lớp chất lượng cao. Mình cũng đặt ra các cái câu hỏi như vậy để thử đo xem thử là tụi em giải quyết nó làm sao. Thì tất nhiên là vì đây là cái dịp đầu tiên để tụi em đọc một cái case và đào vào cái gọi là giống như một cái bản án của một cái tòa quốc tế vậy, nếu mà có thể gọi là như vậy, nhưng mà người ta không gọi cái hệ thống của WTO là tòa án, nó chỉ gọi là một cái hệ thống xét xử thôi. Thế thì lần đầu tiên mà đọc vào một cái nhất là liên quan đến các cái quy định luật quá là phức tạp của WTO nữa, thì cơ bản là mình thấy như thế này là khá là ổn, nhất là đối với cái case thứ hai được trình bày ngày hôm nay thì mình thấy là tụi em hiểu khá là đúng. Chỉ có một cái băn khoăn duy nhất là không biết là tụi em có tìm thêm các tài liệu tiếng Việt để đọc không, và nếu có thì nó tốt hơn là nên được cite ở đây, chứ và kể cả các cái nguồn tài liệu và các cái nghiên cứu bằng tiếng Anh để hỗ trợ cho cái nghiên cứu này thì nó sẽ tốt hơn. Thì đấy là tất cả những cái đánh giá chung của mình về các cái phần trình bày của lớp và của hai nhóm ngày hôm nay. Không biết là các bạn có câu hỏi gì không? Điểm 10 hay không thì mình cũng thông báo luôn về cái cách đánh giá điểm. Mình sẽ đợi đến khi tất cả các nhóm đều hoàn thành cái phần present của mình. Sau đó thì mình sẽ cho điểm một thể, bởi vì mình muốn đặt tụi em trong một cái bối cảnh tương đồng với nhau, kể cả là nhóm trước hay là nhóm sau thì chắc là hai cái group ngày hôm nay là cái group đầu tiên thì tụi em sẽ có một chút cái điểm cộng do là những cái nhóm đầu tiên làm cái việc này. Các nhóm sau thì có thể thứ nhất là có thêm một chút xíu thời gian để chuẩn bị, hoặc là có thêm cái kinh nghiệm hơn từ các nhóm đầu tiên. Thì hai cái nhóm đầu tiên này có thể sẽ có một chút điểm cộng so với các nhóm còn lại thôi. Thế còn điểm 10 hay điểm 9 thì nó sẽ phụ thuộc vào cái công việc mà tụi em xử lý trong các cái phần tiếp theo. Ok, có câu hỏi nào không các bạn? Nếu không thì mình dừng ở đây nhé.
Yeah. Goodbye, teacher.
Right, thank you and see you later.